And I realized like in that moment, like my body is my teammate. Like I never took care of my body. I never saw my body as anything of importance. And because I did start stepping into a place where I was moving my body was able to take care of me to continue my life's journey. It started right then and there, really, for me, was realizing that we rarely take that time to really look at like, what does our body need? Or thank our bodies.
Hello and welcome to the Brighten Your Day podcast. I had the pleasure of going to Costa Rica, and I want to get into what you taught with the paper. But before that, you guys, this is the person that she is, okay? We were roommates, and in Costa Rica, obviously, there's so many bugs. Right?
Yeah.
So many bugs.
We are in the jungle. We are in the rainforest.
Every single morning, like I would wake up and I wouldn't really see a lot of bugs, right? And not until the last day, I wake up, I look down, and I see like a cockroach scurrying across the floor. And I was like, oh my gosh, like Tiff, a cockroach. And you were like, yeah, there's kind of been one like every morning, but I've killed it before you woke it up.
Yep. I knew you were how afraid you are of bugs. And so I was like, don't tell Brighton.
That was so sweet of you. Genuinely, like that just describes the person you are to me, but to everybody, I was like, one, because I know you don't like bugs either.
Yeah,
like,
I hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was hard for me, but I did it.
Yeah, you did it for
I
me.
lived with a giant thing of Raid on my person at all times, but...
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Spraying the bottom.
Ugh.
But anyways, yeah, that always makes me laugh. Like, I genuinely was so shocked when you said, like, yeah, there's actually been one every single morning. But I love that. But if you could give a little bit of a summary on the teaching with the paper that you did.
Okay.
Because I kind of want my audience to do it themselves if they can.
They should. You really should.
It truly was amazing. And I know that there was a full moon just barely. And a lot of people are talking about manifestation.
Sure. Yeah, so while we were in Costa Rica, I co-hosted with Brighton's cute sister.
I always plug
who's my best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a gem. So I co-hosted this yoga retreat in Costa Rica, and Kinley and I took turns like teaching. So on the day that I taught, I specifically wanted to allow the girls to have an opportunity to receive and let go as well. I feel like that lesson goes hand in hand with each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, like our breath is the most beautiful teacher that I know of, too, as a reminder every day that we are constantly releasing with our exhales, and we're constantly receiving through an inhale. And so we did a little bit of breath work that day and allowed ourselves to like fully enjoy the fullness of our inhales and fully enjoy the fullness of our exhales, knowing that we don't have to hold on to the inhales and the exhales. In fact, if we do hold on, something that nourishes us can become incredibly toxic, right?
Yeah.
And so with that, we allowed ourselves to receive. I had found this seed paper. And if you are watching, you need to find yourself some seed paper. You can make it yourself, but I'm sure you can find it online, where there are flower seeds like planted and grained into the paper. And so we took some time to reflect on what we were needing to receive, both from Costa Rica and like the healing land of Costa Rica, but also just what we were needing to take home with us. Maybe our hopes, right? Maybe our dreams, our manifestations, like you said. And so we took time and we wrote down, I receive. The big on the top of the piece of paper, we wrote down, I receive. And we just filled the whole paper full of things that we're wanting to receive. That within itself was a practice.
Yeah.
I asked the girls to fill out the whole piece of paper, and it was interesting to see that it was challenging for a lot of you.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but you know what I thought about with that? Like, it was crazy that even in my own self and like what I want in life, it was hard to fill up that whole paper because I felt like selfish, or like I felt like I couldn't receive those, just all of these things, like, oh, I can only choose these things. Like, how could someone or source or God bless me with everything? But it was something that was interesting of like, why don't I feel like I can receive what I want in this life? I just wasn't operating out of abundance, but that was great to look at. to be like, wow, this interesting.
Right. Can I fill up the whole piece of paper with things that I am well deserving of? Right. And we all are well deserving of whatever it is we want in our life. But it is very much like believing that within ourselves. Yeah. I loved that practice because we then went on to take the paper and plant it in the earth and find a little place in Costa Rica where you were able to sit and meditate with these things, perhaps pray, or just thank the universe for allowing you to have these desires. Because if you have those desires, I truly believe that means they're already yours. And so we planted them in the earth and allowed Mother Earth to hold us, allow the universe to allow us to receive these things, because the earth does hold us day in and day out.
I love that. Thank you. I wanted you to re-explain it because I was trying to remember all the details. All I remembered really was like the paper and just burying it. And I was like, that was so cool. So I want to dive into what made you start looking into yoga? What made you start doing the inner work?
Totally. I mean, when you're asking, how did you find this? Like, where do I start? So,
yeah.
I was born in October.
Right.
Growing up, I like I mentioned with this beautiful home that I have, I did have a really beautiful childhood, but like all of us, I had a tough childhood. I grew up with severe anxiety and depression, and I didn't really know that. I always just kind of like labeled myself as somebody who was lazy, right? Like I was a sleeper growing up. I love, and I still do, I love my sleep. But when I say I was a sleeper, I mean, I slept my life away. I did not want to get out of the bed in the morning because I didn't want to live my life.
Yeah.
And when I came home, I would nap or just kind of like spend time by myself. And I would come out in the backyard and just be with me. And while that's beautiful, like I didn't want to surround myself with people. I was very extroverted as a young child, but as I got older, and I actually got bullied a lot in middle school and high school by somebody who I thought was my best friend growing up, and I was mistreated, and that's something that I've been healing from. And so having a best friend growing up who really belittled me and really put me down a lot in my life, it slowly started to integrate in my mind that, oh, I must not be good enough. I must not have self-worth, even though those words weren't going through my mind. So I lived with, like I said, severe anxiety and depression. I developed an OCD disorder called trichotillomania, where I would like pull out my hair to try to cope. And I was just always wanting to close myself off from others. And then jump to college. I had a rough high school experience. I'm not going to go into that. Like I said, mean girls.
Right. I mean, high school and junior high.
Yes,
hard.
high school and junior high.
Hard.
They play a big role in your life.
Yeah.
I had really a mean best friend, and I got myself involved with some dirtbag guys, you know, and I unfortunately experienced sexual trauma in my life. I kind of began to feel like my body is not a safe place, right? Like I experienced sexual trauma, and that alone made me realize like my body's not a safe place to live in. Like I said, I was always beaten down by my friend and told I wasn't pretty, I wasn't good enough. And then I did take it out on myself. You know, I would sleep my life away. I wasn't taking care of my physical body. I would pull out my hair, actually, like harming my head in a way of coping, but that was hurting myself.
Yeah.
And then I got to college, and I kind of had that fresh start post high school, right? I was able to find myself and really delve into art. And I studied art and art history.
You went study abroad.
I did.
Right?
I did. I studied abroad in Paris.
For art, I mean, wow.
Yeah, art history. So I had
that's incredible.
I had class in the Louvre every Wednesday.
No way.
I know. That was a dream. Even while I was in Paris, actually, right before I moved to Paris, I met my now husband, and he just treated me like a princess. He just treated me like this angel. And like I said, I met him right before I moved to Paris. And when I met him, I was like, "Okay, well, we'll see. I'm moving to Paris." And while I was there, he went out of his way to talk with me every single day. Back then, it was Skype.
I love that.
But I can count probably on one hand how many days we did not talk. while I was abroad.
If
And
he wanted to, he would.
yes,
Yeah.
genuinely. And with our time differences, like I was there at like 10 p.m. for me was probably like 2 o'clock his time. So he scheduled his whole day around being like home around like 2 or 3 midday to talk with me.
Oh,
and so
love
I
that.
kind of started to realize like, oh, he actually really likes me. He's
Mhm.
obviously doing the work. But I did have this subconscious belief that like when I met this incredible man who I didn't feel deserving of, I very much put him on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Still believe he deserves to be on that pedestal. But I believed that when I got married, like I feel like so many of us women do, like I believed that when I got married, he would make me whole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
For sure. And I talked about this a little bit before, but I have a tendency of just diving into whatever their life is and losing myself in their life with their friends, their hobbies, instead of, no, you have your things you like and I will be interested in those, but I need to have my things that I like because that makes me whole. And again, crappy boyfriends in high school. It's like, yeah, I stopped playing music, for example, and all of those things. So absolutely, I totally agree.
And I did not see that, right? When we were first married, the first like 4-ish years, I was incredibly codependent, and I learned that now. But I didn't feel whole when we got married, right? There wasn't this big shift or like switch like I thought that there would be. And I feel like my anxiety and my depression honestly worsened.
Yeah.
I had a really hard time. Like I said, I would sleep my life away. My husband would come home for lunch in between work, and I would still be in bed.
Yeah.
I had a really hard time keeping a job. I gained about 40 pounds.
Really?
Because I just didn't take care of my body. I was so anxious that I pulled out every hair on my head and I had to wear a wig. And it just, I wasn't living my life. I wasn't taking care of my body because, like I said, it wasn't ever proven to be safe for me. Why take care of something that isn't safe?
Yeah.
I didn't shower. I didn't take care of myself.
And had you done any work from those high school years up until the point that you were married? Because I feel like, at least for me, until I started really diving into the feelings and the things that I went through in high school, it all started to unravel when I got married, but even just after high school. And then I realized like, oh, I still need to heal from those things, or at least acknowledge that those things had happened.
Right. I have a lot of disassociated memories that I'm currently working on, particularly with this friend of mine, like I said, who I grew up with. With the shift from high school to college, I left to college and by myself. I didn't go with friends. And that was a great experience because I was able to get that restart, but it was also like, just turn off the past. Yeah. Just push the past down. And my sweet mother would see that I was struggling, and she did put me in therapy as a young girl for my hair pulling, but I didn't want to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Fair. She was like, let me help you, let me get you some therapists, but I didn't want to do the work. Not at all. I didn't have any interest in trying, because like I truly believe that the reason why I didn't have any interest in trying was because deep down I didn't feel like I was worth it.
Yeah.
Why try? I'm not worth the effort. And so, like I said, I really struggled to keep a job, and in fact, I ended up getting fired from one of my jobs, and that was kind of my low point. In life, and it hurt my marriage. It really hurt my marriage. My sweet husband was so patient, but also was really upfront with me sometimes. And was like, hey, like, you're not taking care of yourself.
If you're not helping yourself, and I mean, and it's hard to see a spouse struggling or a friend, and you want to be loving, but it's like they have to also make the choice to start loving themselves and caring for themselves. So I totally could understand that. Yeah,
it was so hard. And there was one day where I was in therapy and my therapist said, you need yoga, but not just any yoga, like not just something you'll find on YouTube to move your body. Like you need this yoga therapy course. And so I went to this yoga therapy course, and the first day I was kind of like, what is this? This is a little weird.
Yeah.
But then as I continued on, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I need. Which is where I met your cute sister.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for that. I think, well, I have taken, was it the same course? Or, no, I took the course that my sister taught. Is that the same course that you guys went through? Okay, I was just making sure. I took that course as well, and I kind of now believe that you take those courses when the time is right? So even if you are in a limbo phase or you're trying so hard, it manifests when it's supposed to manifest in your life, when you're supposed to be doing the work about specific things. And that's always what I've noticed is like there's sometimes that I'm ready to process a certain thing, and then not until 2 years later I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to process this or think about this. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just something interesting. So with you saying like, oh, I wasn't ready yet. I didn't want to be in therapy. I didn't want to do the work. Like totally, I think that's for the grander picture of things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like I said, my sweet mom was like, let me help you. And she could see clearly, right? I couldn't. I needed to hit rock bottom. I needed to be in a place where, like I said, I got fired from my job.
That wake-up call.
Yeah, I was incredibly overweight and for my height and had to wear a wig, right? Like I was at rock bottom, and when I found myself there in yoga therapy, like I just couldn't get enough. So I ended up taking this yoga therapy course 3 times. I went to this yoga therapy course every single week. It was like a 3-hour course every week for a whole year.
Wow.
I could not get enough. I did mindfulness and meditation certification trainings, and I just like could not get my hands on more books. I was constantly reading about meditation and yogic philosophy and just anything that I could possibly get my hands on. I could not get enough. I just fell in love with this world.
Do you have any memories during that time of transition where you realized that it was working?
You know what? There were about 3 months within that period of my life where that was the worst 3 months of my life.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I look back on that time of my life so fondly because I was waking up to myself. I actually had 1 month where I decided I'm going to date myself. And I decided that every single day I'm going to try something new. And sometimes it was bigger things, like my yoga teacher invited me to a sound bath. And so I would go to a sound bath, or it would be something simple like, I don't have time today, so let me run to the grocery store and try a treat. I had never tried before. But I tried to just try something new every single day just to explore myself a little bit more and get to know myself a little bit more, because I didn't in my childhood.
Do you feel like that helped with your self-love journey, is dating yourself, taking the time with yourself intently to really sit with yourself and be like, wow.
Yeah, like
I am safe. I am someone to spend time with, if that makes sense.
Totally. That totally makes sense. So like I briefly mentioned, I was incredibly codependent with my husband. And that looked like whenever he wanted to go out and do something and I didn't, I would like kind of try to talk him out of it. Or if I wanted to go do something and he didn't, then I would be like, oh, okay, then I guess I can't. And I think that primarily stemmed from, I struggled to find friends, especially because of my middle school, high school experience, like having been bullied. I was nervous to find friends. And I didn't feel confident enough in myself to feel like I would be accepted by people. Because of that codependency, taking that challenge upon myself to date myself and do something new every day for a month, and some of those things were leaving and doing things by myself. I kind of started to wake up from that codependency. And I did focus intently on healing my codependency I did the 12-step program with codependency, and was working on it thoroughly with my therapist and reading all the books, right? I think that was a good way for me to actually kickstart this journey towards self-love.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was like a quick, it was 75 hard. It was a 30 hard. It was a 30 hard of self-love, of like discovering new things and
you should
learning something new. Should we
a challenge?
Should we do
a
this?
30 self-love challenge? I don't know how to word it.
There's something there.
Okay,
we can do it together.
That's a great idea.
And so I started to find myself. And I never really did that before. I started trying new things. Like I took a kickboxing class and and I started like learning a little bit more about movement and taking care of my body. I started saying yes to when people invited me to things. And like I said, I continued to take yoga all the time. My husband and I actually, right after I had started my yoga therapy process, we ended up moving abroad and we moved to Asia. We moved to Singapore for his work.
Wow.
And then
was it filmmaking?
Yeah, my husband's a filmmaker. So his company took us to Singapore where he was then, that's like where like their headquarters were, and we were able to go to different countries where he was like training different filmmaking teams.
Were you nervous moving abroad?
Oh no.
Really?
No, I was excited.
See, that's interesting because I have struggled in the past with anxiety, right? And a lot of that has sometimes stemmed with travel, like going on the planes and stuff. It's interesting how
I get that.
People have their own things that they're okay with, and then they're like not okay with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the same. And for me, like, I'll go on a mini tangent. Like the ocean is terrifying to me.
Really?
I struggle with the ocean.
Okay.
And that was actually something that like played a role when I was dating myself. I was invited to like the Midway. There's like a crater.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I knew, I was like, okay, deep water is really scary for me. And I tried it and I did it. Right.
And
like,
how was it? How did you feel?
I did pretty good. Not knowing very many women, but they were safe women. I see now. They were very safe women. And I didn't spend that much time in there, but I did a second.
Yeah, good. Like, I mean, to even try is incredible.
But travel to me is I've always had the opportunity to travel, even as a young adult. And like I said, I moved abroad to study art. And even before I moved abroad, I did like a backpacking trip throughout Europe. And I went to like hopping through to go see different museums.
That's incredible.
It was like a humanities art history tour I did. So moving abroad to Singapore was really exciting. And I had my safe person. Like I had my husband. And at the same time, we were living abroad where we really only knew each other at first. And we were working in the same office together. We were doing everything together. And oof.
That's hard. That's hard on anybody, no matter what.
No matter how codependent you are. And so we had to start scheduling time apart. Like I actually sat at a different area of the office. I made friends and I would sit by them. And then my husband and I both got separate gyms. So
wow. I get it though. I really genuinely get it. Like you do need that time alone.
We had to schedule it. I took art classes and just even did like a little meditation retreat one day and just scheduled that time apart. And that was so healing for me. Yeah. To be in a foreign country where I literally know no one and I'm finding my way to a random art class that I have to navigate on my own, like how freeing. To get there. Yeah, it was very freeing. With that, like I mentioned, we did sign up for different gyms. And I did like a kickboxing-y type gym. I was really bad at it. But it was really fun. And like just kickboxing, it kind of made me feel like a badass. And I liked that feeling.
And
feeling
like a probably. Yes. Confident, strong.
This was new for me. This was incredibly new for me. And I'm not going to go on to the story, but I randomly sprained my wrist in Singapore walking a dog. The dog got spooked and bolted and I fell. Yeah. And so that was like a month before we came home. I had this sprained wrist. And when we came home, my husband's really good friend had started his own gym. And I showed up and I was like, yeah, I have this sprained wrist. And he was like, I got you. Let me help you heal this wrist. Wow. And so I kind of he showed me little things to help me heal my wrist. And then I just kind of kept going back to the gym. I kept going back to the gym and was moving my body 3 times a week. I would go to like these gym classes and I started.
Was it like weightlifting or like HIIT classes?
It was
or really anything. Yeah.
Strength training and some conditioning sprinkled in. And I started kind of getting back into my body, right? Started in Singapore with those like kickboxing classes and then came home to start weightlifting. And my therapist actually said, like, you need to do more things that makes you feel like a badass. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I feel like a badass when I do this. And so I started moving and I started losing weight and gaining muscle. And with that inevitably comes some confidence. And because I was kind of getting more comfortable in my physical body, I decided to jump into this yoga teacher training.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I was studying yoga for so long and
Yeah,
I
you
loved
know it. You've
this.
learned it.
And I started doing yoga teacher training, and I remember it was rough, right? There was a lot of hours. So your first training is 200 hours.
Yeah.
And you're moving a lot. You're
Mhm.
doing a lot of yoga. There was one moment in meditation where this is actually a really special story to me.
Okay.
Dare I say sacred.
Mhm.
We were meditating and I was tired. Like my body was tired from having moved so much, and in my meditation, I just took the moment to thank my body. And I said, like, thank you so much for allowing me to like move and continue to do so much yoga
Yeah.
so that I can learn. And it might sound silly, but I felt as if I heard my body speak back to me
Mhm.
and say, no, thank you for taking care of me
Mm.
so that I can hold you, so that you can learn. And I realized, like, in that moment, like, my body's my teammate.
Yeah.
Like, I never took care of my body growing up, and I didn't care for it, and I didn't allow for movement. I slept my life away. I ate whatever I want, or didn't eat. I didn't care about my
Yeah.
hair, right? Like, little things like that, where I never saw my body as anything of importance. And because I did start stepping into a place where I was moving my body was able to take care of me to continue my life's journey.
Yeah.
And continue to learn and step into yoga, and where I have that now become a trauma-informed yoga instructor, and I've been teaching yoga therapy courses in counseling centers and addiction recovery centers within my local communities. And I've started like a journal business because I want to get out to more
Yes.
people, like,
Yes.
and teach them what I've learned, which it started right then and there, really, for me, was realizing that our bodies are their babies and they can't take care of themselves, right? They do everything they can day in and day out to take care of us, right? We're constantly trying our best to survive, but we rarely take that time to really look at, like, what does our body need? Like, or thank our bodies.
And just notice that it's there. And that's a huge thing with grounding too, like really noticing where you are at on this earth is a big thing. I love that you started moving your body not as punishment. Because if we're talking about, I'm going to get emotional. I don't want to. If we are talking about movement and exercise, there's a huge thing with, oh, well, if we're talking about calories, oh, I need to earn these calories, or I did really bad yesterday, so exercise is my punishment. Movement is my punishment. And that's been a huge learning experience for me, because I started with all of the diet culture and just all of that mindset. And now I'm just like, no, I'm moving my body because I love it. And because I crave it now. It makes me feel good. It's not in a place of hatred for myself or shame.
Totally. And I feel like we see two sides of the spectrum. We see two sides of the pendulum. I'll call it a pendulum, right? Where in relationship with our self-worth and with our physical bodies is, you often see people on one side of the pendulum, which is maybe like more excessive, where, and this is only sharing extremes.
Yeah.
If somebody really struggles to define their own self-worth, maybe they're looking at external sources to find their worth, right? Okay,
absolutely.
I need to book all the Botox appointments. I need to get that breast enhancement. If I, have the hair extensions, if I get the nose job, then I'll be worthy. And like I said, this is an extreme. I wear hair extensions.
Yeah, same.
You
absolutely understandable.
I count calories as an athlete.
I completely understand what you're saying. But there's
those people, like those women, it's so common to just look outside of ourselves. If I look perfect, then I'll be whole. Then I'll
people
be perfect,
will accept
right?
Me. Yeah.
Where I actually was on like the more deficient side of the pendulum, where I was like, why take care of your body? Why even try? You're not worth it. You're not worth taking care of. And so
maybe it's like not wanting to be seen.
Yeah, it was like, if I'm not seen, then I don't have to prove myself.
Yeah.
Right? And so it really was like starting to step into learning how to genuinely love yourself and who you are, that you can then see your body as a safe place.
How do you do that? How do you love your body, especially your physical looks?
This is where yoga is such a beautiful tool. And when I say like that therapist that said I need to do yoga therapy genuinely saved my life, I mean it. This yoga has saved my life. And so many people here like think of yoga as just the asana, which is just like the movement.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. But yoga is so many, there's so many many things make up yoga. And yoga itself, the word yoga means to yoke. So it means union. And to me, I really see that as yoga means a union between the mind and body. In my opinion. And my yoga therapy courses, we specifically went through the chakra system, and I learned the chakra system, and I have used that as essentially like a roadmap to understanding the language of my body.
For sure.
And even
me too.
When I first learned about the chakras, I was like, okay, I don't know. Like this is woo woo. Like, okay, if you were to do an x-ray, there are not these spinning discs of energy in your body, right?
Yeah.
But if anything, I realized like, oh, it's a really beautiful map to learning the language of your body, right? Like we have like chakras located at different areas of our body. Let's use chest as an example. Like this is our heart chakra. And my shoulders roll forward. I always sit with my shoulders forward. My traps are always really, really sore. All of our traps are sore. We all have tight shoulders, right?
Tech neck, looking at your phone.
And I was always covering my heart. I was always trying to hide. And so my body structure itself has tightened and pushed my shoulders forward to try to protect my heart.
Yeah.
And so the chakras are a really incredible tool that I've used in my life to better understand the language of our bodies. Like our bodies can only speak to us through sensation and ailments and our body structure, right? And so for me, it was like, okay, that for example of like, why am I closing off my heart? I haven't been able to learn how to love myself. My body was talking to me through severe shoulder pain throughout my life. And that's just an example. A podcast on chakras is needed.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I always say I get into these conversations and I'm like, okay, a part 2, because once I feel like I start going, I'm like, oh, I just love it. I love it. I really love deep conversations. I was talking to you briefly about social media and sometimes not seeing my body as worthy or perfect or everything. And I think that definitely has to do with social media and seeing everybody else out there. But is there anything that you say to yourself in the morning, any daily practices that you have about yourself, about self-love?
This is silly, but I very much like believe that my body is my best friend. And I have a friend that I get to live my life with. And sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, body, like what do you want to do today? I'm tired, I want to sleep, right? I'm feeling great, like let's go hike a mountain. And you can check in with yourself without judgment and with compassion of like, body, like what do you want to do today? Like I am starving, I need fuel, right? And you're like, okay, let's eat, right? Like let's rest, let's move, whatever you feel like you are needing. You're clearly speaking to me because I'm the only one who can take care of you, right? Like so often I feel like we believe that we are our physical bodies. We are our parents, right? And so often on social media, we look out and we're like, oh, she is beautiful when you don't know her inside, right? I am not beautiful. And so you believe inward, I'm not beautiful too, right? We so often just believe the story that we are our physical appearances, where instead we are merely a consciousness within. And like I said, like our bodies are just our teammates, and they get to join us throughout our lives. And we're never alone. We always have somebody with us, but we have to take care of it. And in turn, as we take care of our bodies, they in turn take care of us. When I first started my self-love journey, I had a very extreme practice that is probably very scary to a lot of people.
I'm ready to hear it.
I did a mirror meditation. And I have taught this to some of my girls in my trauma therapy courses, and It's scary to a lot of people, and that's okay. But before I got in the shower, every day, I stood in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
And I thanked every area of
your body
out loud. There's so much power in speaking out loud because you're using your body, right? Like you can think it, right? But once you're able to like fully use your voice, you are using and connecting with your physical body. So I would stand in front of the mirror and start head or toe and be like, thank you, feet, for helping me move throughout my life. Thank you, calves, for helping me point my toes, move up and down my stairs. Thank you, quads, for taking me through the mountains yesterday. Thank you, glutes, for creating a nice cushion for me to sit. And I would go through literally every single body part. Thank you, bicep. Thank you, tricep. Thank you, forearms, flexors, extenders. Thank you, fingers. And it would take some time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
dedication too.
I wasn't picking it apart. I was thanking it for its function.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, okay, I have a big butt. No, well, thank you, butt, for creating a nice cushion, right? Like, our bodies have a purpose. Our bodies are not there for appearance. And so taking that time to check in with, what is this function of this body part? Thinking it.
You know what's an interesting thought? I've had this thought before, but I just had, and I want to maybe know your thoughts about this, but it's kind of maybe a little tangent as well. Okay. Marilyn Monroe, okay? She talks about how she would turn on her beauty and her essence, and then she could like turn it off, if that makes sense. So obviously she was a very physically beautiful woman. Yeah. For sure. But she would talk about how I don't know if she just did inner work, but she would literally talk about how she would turn on her beauty from within, if that makes any sense. And I think when I have met people that you can just tell that they're in tune with themselves, they are confident from within. In turn, it almost makes them beautiful on the outside as well, but obviously that's not their goal.
Right?
Does that make sense?
Totally. And I immediately think of our solar plexus chakra. Solar plexus chakra is right here, and it is our confidence center. Yeah. It's our its element is fire, and it's all about like taking action in your life. And for me, I found my confidence by taking action, right? I used to sleep my life away. I would not leave my bed. I was not moving. And I'm not saying that you have to go work out. That was part of my story. Yeah, absolutely. It also looked like I took action by going to the grocery store and finding a random drink I had never tried before and trying new things and saying yes to a meditation with some girls I didn't know, going to a book club, even though I never read the book. Yeah. It was creating movement.
Absolutely.
And taking action in your life can create that inner self-confidence.
I totally agree with that, because there's been times in my life I had no idea what I wanted to do. Still, kind of, but mostly, especially when I was younger, and not until I started trying things out. It's like, you're not going to know what you like or what you don't like if you've never tried.
It sounds obvious. Yeah.
But like, I think, especially for me, like my energy's always in my head, right? Yeah, me too. Always spinning. I'm always strategizing, thinking. And it's like, no, I can strategize all I want, but until I take the first step, until I film the first podcast or even buy my equipment, like there's no confidence in a way of like, there's nothing to show for it, even if it's something so little.
Yeah. I always say that action is the killer of fear, right? When we are stuck, and even if we're just like, I just can't leave the couch today, I'm overthinking, I want to start this new project, and you feel like you have to think it through, right? If I think it through exactly right, then I won't be afraid anymore, right? And that's normal. I believe that's called our homeostatic impulse. Like, our bodies are like, if we think it through, then we'll be safe. That's trying to take care of us. And in those moments, I'm usually like, okay, body, like I know you're overthinking because you're trying to take care of me, but I got this.
I love that.
Like, you're doing good. Thank you. Thank you for trying to take care of me. Thank you for overthinking it, but I'm good. Like, I've got this. And like you said, taking action, right? I even just teach something as simple of like, when you're struggling with anxiety and depression at home and you're just like, I can't leave my bed,
Yeah.
I will teach my clients to just change your location, and that's action. Move from your bed to your couch.
Yeah.
Go stand up and get a glass of water. Go walk outside,
the energy.
face the sun.
Mhm.
Just create movement. Just take action, even if it's as simple as I'm going to move from upstairs to downstairs. I'm going to walk and go get the mail from my mailbox. Like, that is movement.
Movement, doing something.
Yeah.
Even if it's little. I love that so much.
Yeah.
I think that honestly kind of segues into your business, your journal business.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about it, and I actually have a few questions about it.
Sure.
So there's an interesting intersection that I am learning with talking to people on my podcast and not, that there's a saying that business is a spiritual practice. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. Obviously, you have this journal business, right? First, tell me about it. Why did you start it? You know, you went into your whole backstory, so I think makes sense why you started, but I would love to hear it in your words, as well as what are things you do to push forward, but also be in a flow state, also be creative.
So like I briefly mentioned, as a trauma-informed yoga instructor, I've been teaching courses at different counseling centers and addiction recovery centers in my local community. And I just felt like, oh, everybody needs this. I teach yoga to athletes at my gym every Saturday.
You do? I didn't know that.
You should come. But I absolutely sprinkle in trauma-informed yoga because I'm like, we all need it. But I just was feeling like I'm helping a small number of people. I want to reach the world.
Yeah.
And so like I mentioned, I studied art in college. And so I found this journal business to be a perfect way to blend both yoga and everything I've learned through my yoga teacher trainings to my art degree and like physically creating journals.
I love that.
Journaling is such a beautiful way to connect to your physical body. I love meditation, and like you mentioned, I'm with you. Like I tend to overthink, I tend to spin, and so sometimes meditation isn't the tool that I need that day. And like I briefly mentioned, speaking is such a great way to think through like your spinning thoughts. You can actually like say them out loud. Right. There's a reason why so many people are like, you learn better when you teach, right? It's because you're connecting your mind with your physical body.
I love that.
And the same goes to journaling. When we are spinning in our heads, overthinking, ruminating, we are using and connecting with our physical bodies to
journal.
And so I blended together my art degree with all my yoga teacher training to create these self-help, self-development guided journals, essentially because I want to teach what worked for me, right?
Yeah.
Like I always tell my clients, I'm like, I am not some yoga guru. Like I am just somebody who was right there in your shoes. Like I was there at rock bottom, and these tools genuinely saved my life, and I want to teach them to the world. Hence why I called my journal business Monde Journals. Monde is French for world.
See, I wondered. I knew it was something like that, but I love that. So world journals.
Yeah. Monde Journals, obviously with my study abroad to Paris, that was kind of the kickstart to finding myself. And taking action in my life was moving to a different country. And with that, I also very much want to have a sustainable impact in the world. So I'm currently in my phase 1 of my journal business, which started with me researching manufacturers. And I was like, I am going to find somebody who is uses 100% recycled materials or the best I can, or like as close as possible. And I wasn't really finding that person. And so I found myself stuck. And I wasn't moving, and I created journals, and they were just sitting on my computer. And I was like, you know what? I need to take imperfect action. And I need to do it anyways. And so I started just Amazon.
I love that.
It's like I can just create books on Amazon, have them print them for me, and that will be my phase 1. So Amazon, all my books are available on Amazon currently.
Perfect.
And phase 2 will look like me finding that manufacturer that is as close as possible to 100% recycled materials. But it had to start with imperfect action.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's something I've recently learned is just starting. Just start. Build your confidence. I used to like literally until 2 weeks ago, I haven't even told anyone that like I really have a podcast unless they like follow me on social media.
Yeah, because there's this little fear of like, but what if it fails? Or
What if it fails? What if, yes. Do you feel that at all?
Oh, yeah.
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 How could you not, right?
Yeah. And so it's like I said, it's just you can take 2% efforts is what I call them.
Yeah.
Is okay, all I can do is move from my sofa to my couch today. Good job. You moved. Right? Okay, all I can do today is just watch this YouTube video to teach me how to do ABCD. Good job. You moved. Like you created movement, even if it was a 2% effort.
I love that.
Even if all you can do is promise that I'm going to have a glass of water today.
Yeah.
You took care of your body.
Yeah.
Right? Like it can be small action. And in fact, I think that that's the key to sustainability is small 2% efforts day in and day out where you're giving yourself a win.
Yeah.
I can drink 8 ounces of water today. I know I can do that without a doubt. I can do that. So you're giving yourself a win for the day.
I love that.
Yeah, I've started with creating Monde Journals. I have some basic daily productivity journals.
Yeah.
I have a chakra journal. If you do want to step into learning more about chakras, I have a journal with different journal prompts to help you check in with yourself every day and learn about the chakras along the way. But here's a plug that I haven't told anybody about.
Ooh, are we like getting the first scoop? Okay.
I am in the process of creating a I Love My Body journal.
Oh, stop.
So
I'm going to get that.
Yeah. And it does have the mirror meditation in it.
Cool.
As well as different practices that I've created and that I've used throughout my life to learn how to genuinely love my body and see my body as a teammate versus, the appearance that we tend to focus on the most. So follow Monde Journals and you will see when I launch this journal. It'll be out soon.
Oh, I don't even think I've ever seen anything like that, by the way. So
it's needed.
It's, oh my gosh, so needed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. Thank you so much for
thanks
everything.
For having me.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. You are incredible, as I'm sure the audience is going to know.
Thanks.
And I genuinely love you, and I'm excited for you. Oh, I'm so excited for you. So thank you so much, guys. We will see you on the next one.
See you.
Bye.